Yes. Yes, please. Whether he's lying is
Good afternoon, members, and welcome to this the Policy and Resources Committee meeting being held today on the 29th of January 2026. As members are aware, the public element of today's meeting is being live streamed, and those participating in the meeting have given consent to their inclusion. Chairman.
Town Clerk, thank you very much indeed, and good afternoon, members. Welcome to this meeting of the Policy and Resources Committee, and I'd like to welcome all officers and, of course, those members of the public who are watching this meeting to what is our first meeting of 2026. I think, given that we are about to have an election in this meeting, I'd want to start the meeting by thanking Tice Burke for all his work as one of my vice chairs over the past 4 years. He's been with me since the very beginning, I think it's fair to say, and has done an outstanding job as a vice chair of this committee. Tice has stepped down to concentrate on his role as chair of the London Police Authority Board. I think we all know that it is a particularly critical juncture of policing, both locally and nationally, and it needs a lot of focus from you, I know, as our chair. But you've contributed a huge amount as vice chair, and I, for one, am incredibly grateful for your support. Can we just give Tice a round of applause, please? I also want to welcome to our committee this afternoon a new appointee, a very important appointee, our new Managing Director of our United States office, David Vanderveer. David, could you just stand up so they can see you? David is our new US Managing Director. I hope you'll all get to know him very well. He'll be based in Washington, DC. He is here for a couple of weeks of induction, and I think is going to be an outstanding appointment. So congratulations, David. Good to have you with us as well. Before I start, let me remind you that unless you gave notice to the Town Clerk by our deadline, we won't be discussing starred information items nor accepting any questions if you haven't submitted them in advance. Let's move straight into the agenda. Item 1, Town Clerk, apologies, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I've received apologies for absence from Sir William Russell.
Thank you very much. Item 2, members' declarations.
I'm not aware of any declarations, Chairman.
Are there any declarations, members, that have not been made? Alderman Keaveney.
Chair, I should declare as Governor of the Honourable Irish Society in relation to the paper which comes up later on that. I know it's on my register of interest, but for the sake of formality here today.
Thank you very much indeed.
Chair, I'd probably do the same then in that case.
Yeah.
Being the same trustee. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
I woke up. Sorry, I should have my name.
Right, all three as trustees of the Irish Society. Any other trustees of the Honourable Irish here? No. Okay, thank you very much for that. Item 3, Town Clerk, the minutes, please.
Thank you. Item 3 is to consider the public minutes and non-public summary of the committee's meeting on the 11th of December.
Members, are there any comments on the accuracy of those minutes from our last meeting? Do you accept them? Great, thank you very much indeed. Let's move on then to election of vice chair, item number 4, Town
Thank you,
Clerk.
Chairman. And there were also items 3B to G.
Yes, they are to note. We note all those other minutes.
Okay, item 4 is the election of the vice chair.
Now, as I referenced at the start of the meeting, we have a vacancy for the position of vice chair following Tice's resignation. A number of members have put their names forward, and I will hand back to the Town Clerk to guide us through the election process. Before we begin, a reminder to members that this position, along with the other vice chair, the deputy chair, and indeed your chair, will all be up for reappointment at the May meeting. So this will be an appointment through till May. Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chairman. As highlighted in an email to the committee yesterday, 3 members submitted expressions of interest for the position of Vice Chair by the deadline of 5 p.m. on Tuesday, the 27th of January. These are Deputy Emily Benn, Deputy Helen Fentman, and Deputy Anne Holmes. As there are 3 candidates for one position, we will need to conduct a ballot, and the Assistant Town Clerk will now come round to issue members with the ballot. Please vote for one candidate only. Once the votes have been cast and counted, any candidate having 50% or more of the number of votes will be elected. Should no candidate receive a simple majority of votes, further ballots may be required.
Thank you very much, Town Clerk. Let's proceed to ballot, please. Oh, wouldn't that be good? Once, yeah, only once. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I please check that every member has cast their votes and it's been received? Yeah. In which case the chairman will read out the names and the ballots.
Ben. Fentiman. Ben. Holmes. Holmes. Fentiman. Holmes. Fentiman. Fentiman. Ben. Ben. Holmes. Holmes. Fentiman. Ben. 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 Sentiment. Holmes. Holmes. Ben. 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 Ben.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, there were 28 votes cast. Deputy Emily Benn, with 15 votes, has achieved over 50% of the votes cast and is therefore appointed Vice Chair for the remainder of the civic year.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Emily, would you like to come forward and join us up here? Well, Emily, congratulations on your election as a Vice Chair of the committee. Can I invite you to say a few words to the committee at this stage?
Thank you, Chair. In the interest of a very full agenda, just to say thank you very much indeed for the opportunity to serve this job, and I look forward to working with you all for the huge amount of priorities, and many thanks to Deputy Holmes and Deputy Fenterman, who I look forward to working with incredibly closely. As we are well aware, there are huge amounts of challenges and we need every one of us to do everything we can to address them. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you very much and welcome. Well, we'll move swiftly on with our business and we move to item 5 on our agenda. Town Clerk, please.
Item 5 is a report on overnight stay levy positioning.
Thank you, Town Clerk. Our members, I think, will be aware of measures announced in November's budget, not least the overnight stay levy or tourist tax, as it's perhaps more commonly known. We are asked in this report to agree our positioning from the City of London Corporation to the government's current and the Mayor of London's subsequent consultations on this matter. I'm going to ask Ben Dixon, head of my policy unit and interim head of programme for Destination City, to speak to this paper and its recommendations. Please, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully everyone can hear me down the other end of the room. Quite simply, members are asked to agree a position as we respond to government consultation announced in the budget in November, and then an expected Mayor of London consultation further down the line. We've taken extensive input from the hotel sector in the city on this matter. I think it's probably fair to say that they've expressed some concern about the implementation of the levy at a time when there are other business rate and other taxation changes happening in the background. That being the case, we're recommending taking a position that supports a model that would have the lowest financial impact on city visitors and businesses. Secondly, that we push for a revenue split with the Mayor of London and a revenue split that's as favourable as possible to London's local government on the basis that the costs of the visitor economy largely accrue locally. And lastly, to take a position that the decisions on the revenues of any levy should be spent, how they should be spent, should be taken locally. And in the event of not being able to secure a favourable revenue split with the GLA, we're suggesting that officers are permitted to explore with the GLA how any revenues could support institutions that have a national and international impact on the visitor economy, including the Barbican and London Museum. As a final point, just to re-emphasise, this is to support the response to a consultation. We're not the decision makers in any of this. The decision makers are in central government and the GLA. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ben. I've got members indicating to speak. James Tunbridge, followed by Tom Slay, followed by Jazz, followed by Steve.
Thank you, Chairman. Just 2 points, stroke questions. I'm sure it was just a slip of the tongue from the policy chairman when he referred to the Mayor of London. I think that we've always got to remember that in every opportunity engaging with the wider world, it's the Mayor of Greater London, we've got the Mayor of the City of London, and actually I think that getting a bit lax on that has long-term impact on how we communicate our responsibility. And the question that flows off the whole paper when you look at what's on page 24, and we've just heard the officer's assistance, which did answer part of my question, was this 25-75 split. I wanted to properly understand how much say we really have, because I believe it is the Mayor of Greater London and the GLA's final decision. And if that's the case, I just want us to be clear in understanding that. Obviously, I do think we should have some of that split, but I have a feeling, and I think other members might know this, that the GLA have already got plans for the money. So it would be good to be clear when we make a decision, is this really just giving officers a steer to negotiate, or do we actually have some levers we can pull and say we must keep some of it? Thank you, Chair.
It's a very good and fundamental question. We'll basically get all the issues out on the table, and then I'll ask Ben to respond to each of the questions that members are raising. Tom Slay is next.
Thank you, Chair. I should declare, I don't think it's a conflict. I have a role at the GLA, co-chairing the cultural leadership group there. And it might be useful to know, there aren't any plans yet for how the money would be spent. The entire conversation that I've been privy to has been around the collection mechanism and the split of that. As you would imagine, the GLA want to keep it all. The boroughs want to, in turn, they all want to keep it all. I think Westminster have made a bid for about the same proportion that we are proposing in this paper. My question, though, is about the collection mechanism. Business rates would not be the right tool for this. The last I heard, the GLA are thinking about a new mechanism being built for this. And Ben, I just wonder if you had any insight into that, because it could unfortunately be the case that the cost of that might be pushed onto us if we end up also being the recipients of some of the benefits. It's also a really tricky situation. UK hospitality, as I suspect Giles might tell us, are lobbying really hard against this. I have some sympathy for that, but also cultural institutions, tourist institutions are doing quite the opposite because they could be the beneficiaries. So in terms of the paper and the split, I think it makes sense, but I think the fundamental questions still remain.
Thanks, Tom, very much indeed. Jazz.
Thank you. I understand, obviously, we don't make the decision of whether this happens or not, but I would have liked to see a bit more of a critical stance that reflects on the Destination City Board. There's so many costs going up, and we're not being critical. We could say, I've read the consultation, the open-ended questions, so we could actually be a bit more critical and say, whilst I appreciate the model that you're proposing, it is probably the best possible one out of if it is going to happen, but we should be saying, well, the levy could have really detrimental harm at a time when we've had business rates go up, national insurance, minimum wage salaries. It's just not going to work. And I've got a hotel in my ward. Sometimes the hotels are so expensive here that other people that want to come and do business in the city go and stay elsewhere. And even if we don't make the end decision, it sends out a really bad sign to people that the city is actually not supporting the hospitality industry. So unless we can change that and have a critical stance, I can't support it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jazz, very much indeed. Steve Goodman.
Thanks, Chair. That was good. I'm sitting next and now standing next to Jazz. I want to put the alternative point of view. This is not a tax on hotels. This is a tax on visitors and tourists. And so I think one of the questions for us is how elastic is the price of hotels in the city? I think people come into the city spending whatever they spend. I don't often spend a night in a hotel in the city because I live here, but spending 250 quid a night, whatever they're spending, paying an extra £5 in a tourist tax, I don't think is going to stop them coming. And I think also the context in which we're actually operating at the moment, when we are going to government on all sorts of issues, saying that we are financially strapped, not to actually argue for the 3% rather than the £2 flat rate, I think is disingenuous of us. So I think we should go for the 3%, and also obviously I support the idea that we should continue to argue for local authorities to have 3/4 of that. But if not, then in collaboration with local councils and the GLA, think about how Londoners could benefit from this tourist tax. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Steve, very much indeed. Deputy Chair. That's you.
Thank you, Chairman, for reminding me of that. So I was just reflecting actually on Steve Goodman's comments. But look, I think this assumes that we would support it in any scenario. And actually, I just think if a decent proportion, and I suggest that is, we should certainly be pushing for this, but at least 50% is coming back to local authorities without strings attached, so we can spend it ourselves, and demonstrate actually to the hospitality industry that this is incremental rather than, quite frankly, just filling in a gap for other funding that's being taken away, then actually I think that there comes a point where we should not be supporting it at all. I just think we need to think a little bit about that, because if it is just another tax, quite frankly, on the industry, which is hard push, and we sat down with the industry yesterday, and I think those many of those concerns are very real. You know, they have, many of them have got good occupancy 2 days a week, but on the other nights they are weak. There is additional capacity coming into the city around hotels, putting further pressures on. And actually, without some of the initiatives that they have done at weekends, they would be down on business numbers. Those businesses are definitely feeling the pinch. And I just think we need to look at this in a balanced way. So for me, I would certainly support these measures, or what's being proposed here, but only if that money is coming back into local authorities and being spent for the benefit of hospitality. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Deputy Chair. I mean, it is fair to say, particularly as I answered Jazz's question in court and told her then that we would meet the hospitality sector. We did meet them yesterday. I think we met 30 or 40 actually, James, of them for breakfast, and there is a lot of concern from the sector. There is no question about that at all. And your point about tax after tax after tax crippling their sector is a huge concern to them, and that certainly is the view that they did express. We're now going to Shravan Joshi, followed by Brendan Barnes.
Thank you, Chair. Couple of points. I think first of all, we need to be mindful that there are about 7,500 hotel rooms in the square mile. The local plan takes that up to about 9,000 rooms by 2040, and the occupancy rate in the square mile at the moment is over 80%. It's about 86%. So we actually don't do too badly. Our hotels do quite well. If we look at economic viability around the square mile, hotels and student accommodation probably do pretty well. So the hotel sector is actually not in a bad state of affairs. I think it's the businesses around the ecosystem of hotels that we need to think about as well. And we try and push hotels not to have amenities inside the building to push the local economy a bit further. So we need to be mindful of the ecosystem impacts on this. But the point I really want to make here, Chair, is I think we've missed, and again, Ben, you might want to clarify this. What do we call a hotel? And one of the reasons when this was first discussed that I was very supportive of it was when the GLA wanted to include Airbnb, errant landlords, service departments into that fold to say we can now regulate the quality and the standard of those offering private rooms on a short stay, which has been an area of fraud and criminality in the past. And I don't see a mention of that in here. In my particular ward, we have a lot of issues around people subletting apartments, letting short-term overnight stays, and actually there are some criminal issues around that. I don't know if that's been considered in this or not, Ben, but I would quite like an addition to that whilst we do this consultation, please. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Shravan. We're now going to Brendan Barnes, followed by Ben Murphy.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to support a lot of what Shravan just said, and also to back Steve up. So in my professional role, one of my clients is St. Paul's Leonardo Hotel, actually the whole chain, but I know the manager there quite well. Their occupancy rate is into the 90s, so actually hotels are very well used in the city. Now, I did a bit of research on this morning. I went to the Ned. Okay, maybe I should have used the Ned. Their most expensive room is £2,800. So the idea that somebody staying in that suite should pay £2 rather than £84, it was 3%, does seem a bit odd to me. And on the sort of broader point, if we're going to be going to the GLA asking for funds, surely we'd be doing so in a better position, having put them in a position where we're arguing for more funds. So if we're going to get a slice of the pie, let's have a slice of a bigger pie.
Thank you very much indeed. Ben Murphy, and then the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm mindful that in the Ward of Bishopsgate, we obviously have a number of the five-star hotels that Shravan just alluded to that is part of our growth strategy. And part of growth, of course, means building. And I was talking to Ben previously about whether or not we could encourage the GLA to look at some exemption processes where there are significant building happening around hotels that impact their overall viability during the process. Because if footfall is down, people aren't going to pay a tax. I understand that, but perhaps those that are using the building could pay slightly less as part of that. Particularly when we think about some of the forthcoming planning applications that may take 9 years to deliver right next to some of our key hotels in the city. The other thing I just want to note is this is going to be a sliding scale. Right. This is going to get worse when we look at other cities around the world, and there is comparison work that has been done. You know, New York, Las Vegas, all the other major cities around the world are roughly around 15%. So we know this is going to be a new tax for the GLA and the Mayor of London that will help the other councils around the city. And unfortunately, the city once again is being used as a bit of a beating stick, and it's really unfortunate. And I think we really have to go back and explain now to city hotels what the situation is and encourage them to start lobbying the GLA too.
Thank you, Ben, very much indeed for that, Henry.
Thank you, Chairman. I would support all three of these recommendations personally. I would also go with a flat rate, which I know is what they largely impose on the continent, which I think works. But I think we have to have a rationale for this if we're going to charge this. And I think the important thing is to if we're going to support this, is to demonstrate to the hospitality sector in particular, this is to reward and attract visitors, not to punish them. And therefore, I think we have to have a rationale as to why we think it should be imposed. And that rationale should be because we're providing services which have a benefit for the hospitality trade and across Greater London. So that's where I just think we need to position ourselves, because if the Mayor of London wants to keep it all, I think we've got to demonstrate why he shouldn't be allowed to keep it all. Now, if I follow my argument through to its logical conclusion, that would actually, in my view, mean we should be directing this towards culture and the Barbican Centre, which I think if they do what they're supposed to be doing, they will attract visitors. And the fact the Barbican Centre is one of the largest imponderables within City Fund is financially is neither here nor there. But you see my logic. I just do think we need a rationale on this. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, that's the only speakers I've got. Any other? Anybody want to speak? Ben.
Thanks, Chair. I'll maybe take them in the order of simplicity, I think, or simplicity to answer, or my perception of what's simple to answer, shall I say. Mr. Tunbridge asked what decision-making power we have, and I think, as I set out in my introduction, none. It's a consultation that's being run by central government that we expect a subsequent consultation to be run by the GLA. So that answers, I think, hopefully that one. Chairman of Planning and Transportation asked about a collection mechanism. It's a good question. I had looked through the consultation myself because that was the first question I had. The consultation document does not relate. So I think that one will need to wait until the Mayor of London's consultation for the actual implementation method. We'll definitely keep a keen eye out for whether there are new burdens placed on the business rates units of city and other local authorities. Any such new burdens would be subject to an MHCLG new burdens assessment, but we'll definitely keep a close eye on that one. There are examples like the apprenticeship levy, which doesn't, I don't believe, have any implications for local government. So that might be a model that government chooses to take. Jaspreet Hodgson, you asked about whether we could relate the feedback that we've had both from the industry breakfast we held yesterday and the Destination Advisory Board. Absolutely, the report asks for delegated authority for us to actually write the consultation response to government. Will 100% include the feedback that we've had from hotels, which, as you say, has been largely negative, with some caveats, but we'll definitely relay that. Deputy Chairman asks, does there become a point where we don't support it? And I would say that probably, I think like I said, the two consultations, we have two bites of the cherry. I think that will become clear in the second of those consultations. So there may be another decision for members to take at that point. Shravan Joshi asked about the definition of a hotel. So it's not a hotel levy, it's an overnight stay levy. So it includes various types of overnight stay levy, and the intention is to include Airbnbs as a definition within that. Mr. Murphy, who gave me, sorry, beg your pardon, Deputy Murphy, gave me notice of the question when I bumped into him in the lobby this morning. Thank you very much. Does the GLA have an exemption process? That is one of the consultation questions. I think my initial reaction to that was you probably can do a blanket exception, but I think there should be a scope for these particular scenarios that he describes where hotel is affected by development within the local area that's going to suppress their numbers. So I think if you'll bear with me, I will go back and noodle that around a little bit and decide whether it's appropriate to put into the response to government or to the subsequent response. The Chairman of Finance, his feedback really aligns with the feedback that we got from industry. Basically, what they were saying was, if it has to happen, we don't want it to just be subsumed into local government budgets or to the JLA's budget. We have to know what we're getting for the tax. So I think that really accords with what we've heard from industry. And then lastly, and I leave these last because I think it's a genuine policy decision for the committee. So for the Chairman of Culture, Heritage and Libraries, and I think was it Steve as well, on do you want to basically have a policy choice? The policy choice is, do you want to go for the option that's going to protect or be the lowest impact on city businesses, or do you want to go for the option that's going to raise the most money on the hope that you might get a reasonable slice of that pie further down the line? That's a straight policy decision for the committee. We've made the recommendation based on the industry feedback we've got, but the committee's entitled to take the opposite view. Chair.
Ben, thank you very much indeed. Members, the recommendations are as surmised in para 17 of the report, and you can see them there. Nobody sought to move any amendments to the recommendations, so I think we have to therefore go on a straight vote on the officer recommendation. So those in favour of supporting the recommendations, please show. Those to the contrary, please show. And those abstaining, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, thank you. So the proposal, the recommendation is clearly carried. Thank you very much, members. Let's move on to item 6, Town Clerk, on our agenda, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 6 is the report on the London Council's grant scheme.
Yeah, members, this is a regular report in which we're asked to approve our annual contribution to the London Council's grant scheme. It's increased by a very small amount. It also report sets out that the corporation is responsible for issuing the subscription levies to all councils. And I can confirm that the necessary threshold has been reached. And so if we are content to approve this today, officers can begin processing a court decision under urgency immediately. Are there any questions or comments? Deputy Murphy.
Thanks, Chairman. At Project and Procurement Sub yesterday, we actually reviewed or were going to review a procurement exercise on homelessness, which was pulled to re-look at city fund and how that could have an impact on the output of the recent negotiations. What I notice in here, though, is additional funding that is proposed to go into homelessness again. And part of that, I wondered how much of this is statutory versus non-statutory, because there are lots of examples of this we find in different committee reports that siphon off a little bit of money here and a little bit of money there. And I just want to be clear that this is a statutory responsibility that we are allocating funds to.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? In which case, who's going to respond? Oh, sorry, Bronick, I beg your pardon, Alderman.
Thank you, Chair. I guess in a way I'm building on what Deputy Murphy had to say, is that this report has endless detail on about how much everyone's going to contribute. But in actual expenditure, there's a single line item of £6.173 million. I have no idea where that's going. And actually, it seemed to me that the emphasis of the report was unbalanced in terms of what we needed to make the decision. And that probably builds to what you're saying, which is, well, where is the 6.2 million going? Is it duplicating what is being done elsewhere? And I think that's a lacking absence in the report.
So can I have an officer to respond? Greg, are you going to be the...
I'll give it a whirl, Chairman, as this gets passported through me by London Councils. So it's probably just worth bearing in mind the basis on why you're receiving this report. So you're receiving it in sort of 2 capacities. One is our specific contribution, which is very small, just a few £1,000s. And the other is because of the particular legal arrangements around London Councils and what it can and can't do. For whatever reason, many years ago, it was asked that the corporation basically be the processing authority for them. So we are really executing London Council's decisions around the distribution of the money and allowing them to go off and go forward with this. it's a slightly different hat then with the two decisions. One, your own contribution. The other is basically facilitating London councils discharging the obligations on behalf of all London councils singularly. If that sort of vaguely makes sense, which is why you don't have the same level of scrutiny over the overall spend, because that's for London councils to discharge rather than for you. But if there is a degree of discomfort or what have you, I'm very happy to go away and get more detail from the relevant officers at London councils and feedback. Obviously, this just by way of reminder, it's gone through the same sequence every year. There's quite tight timescales around it. We get communicated by London by London councils about a take up, and we have to execute a decision by mid-February, and that must be done through the Court of Common Council. So that's just to give you a frame on. If you do want some information and so on, I can do that, but it might be a bit of a quick back and forth if that is helpful.
So if we didn't approve this now, how would we handle it then?
You would have to delegate authority to allow us to manage subsequent approval between now and mid-February, or if you didn't want to discharge that approval, there'd obviously need to be some conversations with London councils.
Alderman Masachada.
I mean, I'm perfectly satisfied that we should approve it today. I just think we need to have more information that can come subsequently. I recognise the timetable and everything else.
Yeah.
But it does have a broader implication. So I would be in favour of approving, but can we have more information?
Yeah, that's clear. That's clear. Thank you, Alderman. Paul Martinelli.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to note, I mean, obviously this is a delegated authority number. £11,000 we're actually talking about, and wasting PNR's time about that is not really sensible. But having sat on this grants committee on your behalf for 3 or 4 years previously, it is an incredible scheme. About £8 million a year shared out across the two target areas, homelessness and violence against women and girls. It's a very thoroughly researched and successful piece of work. It's interrogated by external reports, and that's permanently available to anyone that's interested. And if the Alderman or Ben would like to contact me, I can certainly link them up with the people that see the benefits. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Members, on the basis of what you've heard, are you happy to approve the a decision today? And we will seek further information as well, which we can still cascade, as Alderman Masachada has suggested. OK, let's move on to item 7, Town Clerk, please.
Item 7 is a report on the 2026-27 pay policy statements.
As members will be aware, we have an obligation to publish a pay policy statement, which has to be approved by the Court of Common Council in March each year. The statement was considered and approved by the Corporate Services Committee last week. The committee recommended some amendments to the statement, and I'm going to hand over to our Chief People Officer, Cliff Morton, to walk us through these. I would then like to move that we approve the pay policy statement subject to these amendments being included before submission to the court. Cliff.
Excellent. Thank you, Chair. So there are 2 amendments to the paper, and it should be noted at this point as well, this does not reflect any changes from Ambition 25, as that is still under consultation. So if and when that is approved, we would bring back another policy to reflect those changes. This is the current position. Corporate Service Committee asked for a couple of amendments into the paper, so one of which was the addition of 4.4.3 2, which is incentive plans, which gives them optionality around executive roles and putting in place longer term incentives to drive performance and retention at that level. It should be noted this is not currently in use. This purely gives Senior MCO the optionality to be able to do so. And the other was the provision of 5.6.2, which is a new section to reflect the provision of accommodation and benefits in kind within the paper as well. There was a further request from Corporate Services Committee to include some of the additional senior roles across the SMG group, and we're taking those away because they're not part of the statutory obligation to include within the paper. However, as the request had never come through before, we are looking at and considering bringing that into the paper for a future paper. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Deputy Murphy.
Sorry, just really quick question. When you talked about the accommodation and benefits in kind, was that just limited to the senior staff, or was that to all staff?
Sorry, that would be for all staff within this paper.
James Sandwich.
Thank you, Chairman. It's very helpful to know where in the paper, but anyone that wasn't at Corporate Services wouldn't know exactly what we're approving. Could we possibly be told the words that were going to be added? Thank you.
Cliff. Oh, sorry, it's Town Clerk.
Thank you. So the paragraph, it will be paragraph 3.3.3 brackets 2, which will now read incentive plans. These are put in place for executive roles that have a significant impact on the corporation's long-term performance to help ensure sustainable growth and delivery of multi-year objectives to stretching targets. The payments are only made at the end of the agreed period and only on successful or better delivery against all targets. And then para 5.6.2. Some senior officers may be provided with accommodation where it's in the best interest of the corporation and its duty of care to the individual due to a range of factors related to the nature of the work, e.g. regular evening appointments and working beyond normal public transport availability. In such cases, the requirement for and provision will be determined on a case-by-case basis. In such circumstances, the City of London Corporation will meet the cost of any additional benefit in kind due for that individual. These are published in the annual statement of accounts under the notes to the comprehensive income and expenditure statement, Part 9, remuneration and exit packages of employees.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other questions or points? Yes, Steve Goodman.
Just a minor point that Cliff didn't mention, and that is in the graph at the end there, the town clerk is missed off. He was missed off at the Corporate Services Committee, and he's missed off here when it gets, well, oh. In the fold. Oh, is he in the fold? Are you hiding down there, Ian? I still can't see it. Okay, well, as long as it's there.
Look. As long as the town clerk's in the fold, we can all be relaxed. Right. Any other questions? Are you have not? If you're happy to approve this, agreed. Thank you, members, very much indeed. Item 8, town clerk, please.
Item 8 is a report on the departmental budget estimates for 2026-27 on areas under the control of the committee.
Yes, this is another annual report, members, asking us to note the latest revenue budget for services directly overseen by us in this committee and to approve the proposed revenue budget for 25-26. Do members have any questions for officers? Or yes, Chairman of Finance.
Sorry, yes, I agree with all this. I just wanted to alert members. I think we all know what pressures we're facing. I just don't want officers to think because you have a budget you have to spend it. I think we have to we have to keep up the pressure on looking at our cost savings wherever we can do. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chancellor. Well said. Any other questions? Are you happy to approve this? Thank you, members. Item 9, town clerk, please.
Item 9 is the draft business plan for the Chief Strategy Officers, our principal team, for 2026-29.
Thank you. Do members have any questions on the draft business plan for the Corporate Strategy Officers team? No, seeing none, are you happy to approve it? Great, thank you very much. Item 10, allocation of OSPR, town clerk.
Thank you. This is a report on the allocation of the on-street parking reserve for Q3. It's a report of the City Fair and Chamberlain.
Yeah, this was approved, members, by RASC on Tuesday. Are you happy to confirm this decision?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Item 11 and item 12 are both for information only, so we will not be discussing them. Item 13, there are no questions, a notice of questions I've received. On item 14, I have no other business that I consider urgent. So we move to item 15, which is the exclusion of the public. Do members agree to exclude the public? And thank you, members of the public, for tuning in this afternoon. Just have a brief pause whilst the link is taken down.